It's Hollie's Hotspurs back with another one. Chatting all things Tottenham, we're second to none. Special guests every time, if it's win, lose or draw. The passion is high like Harry Kane when he scores. Or when Lloris makes a world-class save. We got Hollie running the mid every game. Settle down, stick around, share your thoughts with the panel. And make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Coys.
Hello and welcome to another Hollie's Hotspurs Live, where tonight we have a lot to dissect because we've had some Ange content today and my God, was it good. But to dissect everything that's gone on today, I am joined by three fabulous guests. So first of all, Connor, it's great to have you back on the show again, my friends. How are you today?
Yeah, it's great to be back on. I'm good. We were saying before the show, you know, there's a decent vibe being built pre-season and a little bit of hope. So if we can keep that going, please, Spurs. I'm feeling surprisingly good about Spurs at the minute, but we'll see. Yeah,
I say it's a first because, like I said, all last season it was a therapy session, so it'd be nice tonight to actually think about something positive. I'm also joined by Josh. Josh, it's amazing to have you on the channel. I know it's been a little while that we've kind of had this in the works, but it's great to finally get over the line. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Just the same. Actually, buzzing. I never thought I'd say that at the end of last season, but absolutely great to be on. I've been wanting to come on for a while, so thanks for having me.
No, I mean, you come on at a good time because we have got a lot of positive things to talk about. And I'm also joined by Sonny. Sonny, how are you? I'm so close to saying Sonny, but I made sure I said Sonny this time.
You know what? I'm going to allow it. I don't mind. Again, I'm positive, really happy. I'm usually half glass empty. I'm now half glass full. And Ange just has that magic. He's already convinced me I want to get the Aussie flag out this season.
No, it is good, and I think it's very refreshing as well. And I think that's why we're so buzzed because, like we kind of spoke just before the show went live, how down and outbeat we've been with having managers that are very negative in a sense of their press conferences. Where today, Connor, we had a breath of fresh air with Ange, didn't we?
He just feels so like. There's a humble side of him. He feels like so happy that he's here and that he's got this project, and you just feel like, you know, we're all going, oh, who's going to leave? Who's going to do this, that, the other? But with him, you just feel like it's a completely clean slate and every single player has a chance to prove themselves. I know Twitter is sort of praying for Ndombele to have this massive revolution. But, you know, you think under Ange, it could potentially happen, honestly. No, I love him. I love him already. He seems amazing, honestly.
No, he really does. And Sonny, I think it's the fact that the quote that stuck with my mind was that he's got the desires to give supporters the hope that we'll embrace on something special. And you could talk about obviously Conte and Nuno, that good old saying that was, excuse me, fire engine, where Nuno would say, we're going to give you something special. And that never really materialized into anything. But with Ange, you kind of feel like it could actually happen with him.
I feel like with Ange, he's got more to go with. Like, we've all seen that famous speech he gave to the Australian national team, and he just seems like a elderly statesman, I'd say. Like, he just knows how to treat people like humans, unlike a Mourinho or a Conte. And that's what we need. Like, I've seen some quotes this week saying, like, he's firm but fair. And that's what I want from a manager. I want him to put the arms around the players who need it most, but then I do want him to maybe give them hell to leather when they need a kick up the backside. But no, I just think all what I've heard so far has been great. I thought the Q&A he did on the Spurs YouTube channel was fantastic. It just seems like, I mean, you referenced Nuno there and I'll make you proud and all that. It just didn't have much substance behind it, whereas I feel like Ange is just, he's like a dad. He's like, I don't know why, he just gives you that like sort of dad vibe.
I feel like where we've been so far and behind for so long with these different managers that we thought were going to be the real deal, and obviously it just isn't going to work with the Tottenham infrastructure that we have. I mean, when he said, Josh, about I'm the guy who likes to rebuild, again, without mentioning the man that's gone down the road, that's kind of what we've needed for a long time with the rebuild. So with that, again, speaking what Sonny and Connor said, it's just a breath of fresh air, isn't it? You feel like he's going to do something.
Yeah, absolutely. I think more than anything, what strikes me about that is he wants to take the players and us as fans on a journey. And I think that when you look at every team that has been successful in the past, you look at Guardiola being probably the best example, as it's all the time. It's such a constant. And maybe Sir Alex Ferguson. You know, these are managers that have taken the fans and the players on a journey. They have had a long, continuous rebuild. I don't think Pep Guardiola, if you were to ask him, you know, is he in a rebuild? He'd say, I'm always rebuilding. It's always a rebuild. And I think when you have a manager saying that sounds so keen to be here, you know, and the way he's talking about the club and the way that he's talked about the players, you know, which I'm sure we'll go into, just is this one massive sign of, I want to be at this football club. I'm genuinely honoured to be here. And, you know, he wants to bring everyone together. And I think that, as you say, that's exactly what we need. And I think especially with some of the perhaps mental problems that we've had as a team, some of the psychological issues and some of the players that have been slight misfits, I think, in terms of where we'd all hoped they would be, you know, that is exactly what you need, is someone that is, as rightly pointed out, someone that is firm and fair, but also someone that's going to put an arm around you and take you along with them. So yeah, absolutely, all aboard the Ange train.
I think it's also as well because we forget that all these players have had loads of different managers in such a short period of time. And Connor, I think we've spoken about it many times on the show, but we've kind of lost our culture. And we talk about how Ange is the father figure, is going to be this father figure. It kind of brings you hope that, like Josh has said, it's going to bring the fan base together. And I think that's something we need to fix before we move forward with anything else.
Spot on. Yeah, the fan base has been so split sort of past couple of years, not even just under Conte, under Mourinho. It was all sort of, you know, are we doing the right thing and getting in these winners, and are we backing them properly? Are we, you know, what's our direction going forward? How have we still got the same? There's so many different sort of things that are going off, you know, and the fan base is so split on Levy and Levy out. And I don't want to go into that too much, but I think this is it's a breath of fresh air. It's different. And I know we could argue that we've had that same belief at the start of every season. We've got a new manager. We're like, oh, this season's going to be different. And, you know, but it is just different. We know his style of football is attractive, and that's the Tottenham way. That's what we want. That's what we need. And it's no disrespect to what Mourinho and Conte were doing, but the fans have been split because A, the football's not been attractive to watch, and B, you know, we haven't been getting results either. You know, if it's not attractive to watch and you're getting results, absolutely fine. But when you're struggling and it's a struggle to watch it as well, I mean, oh, come on. Like, it's a struggle enough as it is, you know? So, yeah, it's honestly the breath of fresh air that we really need. We just have to believe. We have to believe and give him time. And that is like, this is literally the first manager in a very long time we can sit there and go, no, just stick with him. Give him time. Get behind it. And yeah, I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing for him, honestly. Yeah.
I mean, you make a great point in obviously time, Connor and Sonny. Do you think the fan base will give him time, considering what we've put through the last couple of seasons? Or do you think it's going to have the opposite effect to be like, we are going to give him time because what we've been through?
I think we should give him time. Like, we've given all these other managers time. We've given them money. I think what Josh said was perfect. I've had enough of managers who we're paying 15 million per year who feel like they're doing us a favour when, you know, that's their job, to get the most out of these players and be tactically like able to get a result, when those managers didn't have a plan B most of the time. It was play your back three, sit back, counter. Whereas I feel like Ange, I mean, I know I've read things that say like he is quite, you know, it's his way tactically, but at least it's going to be attacking and press. I mean, that pressing team we had under Pochettino was so exciting, and I just think that's what we need back. We need our identity back. I think I've seen more Tottenham fans. I think when he was being rumoured, a lot of people were critical of it. And now that the ball started rolling and he spoke a bit, I think people are now converted to his ways. And I think we should give him time, because I feel like there's now this conversation, should top four be on? I feel like we just need to see what happens this season. We're going to talk about Harry Kane, obviously, later on. But there's still a lot of things up in the air before we can really judge predictions and where we're going to finish and all that. I mean, I'd be happy with like 6th and upwards. I think 6th would be perfect, and you can just build on that. And then he gets more players, and it is that process.
And I think that's the thing with us Spurs fans. I think because I would say we're impatient, but I think that's because of what we've put up with the last couple of seasons. Would you say that's probably the same case, Josh, that we are impatient because A, we haven't had a trophy for so long, and B, because we've put up with a negative style of football that isn't the Spurs way, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're rightly impatient, though. And I think that, you know, where we have been, it's like every time, it's kind of like the donkey with the carrot dangled in front of it. Every single time, you know, we go to take a bite out of it, gets taken away from us, you know, and that is the most frustrating thing. And, you know, it's interesting you say 6th. I personally wouldn't be happy with 6th. I want us to go for fourth, because I believe that there are enough teams in transition and enough teams that are going to be vying for it. Why not us go for it as well? We've still got the majority of players that got us fourth in the first place. We're adding new players in. We're going to get out some of the dead wood that have weighed us down. If not, we're not going to get all of them out, but we're going to get most, and I genuinely do believe that. I truly believe that there's going to be 3 or 4 teams vying for it. So, I think what it will come down to is togetherness, a fan base that's behind the team, how we are at home. We were pretty good, I thought, at home generally last season, but it's those games, too many games where it was just, we could have had one of these shows, in the ground because it was so silent, and that can't be the same this season. We've got to get behind him, and the football is going to do that, and, I'm sure we might go on to it, but, there's a lot of anger in the fan base, and understandably so, about the ticket prices. But irrespective of, the problems I have with that, I just want to go and enjoy watching the football. I want to struggle to sleep the night before because I'm so excited for the game. I said this on a show a few days back. I said, I want everyone to feel like they're a kid again, as excited as they were when they first went to a game, because they know they're going to be entertained, win, lose or draw. They know the players are going to give everything. And it seems like Ange is going to get that out of the players, even if the results don't come. And if we finish 6th, but we play really good stuff and we can all see that we're going in a direction, then yeah, sure, I'll be fine with that. But I also believe that if you do that, you can achieve higher than that with a bit of luck along the way. So yeah, I mean, that's how I see it, at least.
No, it is interesting, and don't get me wrong, I think there's going to be a big player in that helps us get to top 4, and obviously we'll get on to him now. I think it's probably the best time, and that is Harry Kane. And Connor, I've had many chats with you on this show about whether Harry Kane's staying or going. Bayern did put in another bid, but they have rejected it. Do you think they come back for another bite?
Honestly, I don't know who's making these bids. Is it like the managers? Is it Tuchel's son or something? It doesn't make sense to me at all. Like, come on, this is Harry Kane. I know he's the final year of his contract, but this is Harry Kane. This is Mr. Tottenham. This is the guy who's carried us virtually last season to not be worse than we are. I think they come back. I don't know how much more they come back, because Bayern are, a lot of people joke about it being a very much Bayern-dominated league, and they always buy from the teams around them and this, that, the other. But they are quite smartly structured. I don't know what their record transfer fee is, but it wouldn't be anywhere near what they're willing to pay for Kane. So I think I think they come back again, but I don't think they pay what we want. And we've had this conversation so many times about Harry, and it really, 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 really hurts every single time. But I'm now telling myself that he's staying regardless this season, and then he possibly goes next season. But this is me being Mr. Hopeful, and this is me thinking that Bayern aren't going to push the boat out. I mean, listen, Osimhen, go and get Osimhen. Don't come for Harry. Harry is our man, Let him stay. Let him have some good times under Ange, and then he can do what he wants. They'll come back in with another, I think. But I think we've got to stand our ground and keep him as much as he deserves better.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's the thing. I don't think anybody would begrudge him. But Sonny, I think with all the talk, and it must feel funny because obviously you guys must be thinking the same thing that Andrew's thinking in the press conference. How long is it going to take for them to ask me about Kane? And they did. But I thought he handled it very well, the way he kind of spoke about what's going to happen in the next couple of days when he gets back on Wednesday.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. We have to await this conversation. The powers with Ange. He's going to have to do some convincing. He's probably got a PowerPoint. The captaincy might be a key factor. I mean, this new contract is quite interesting. Obviously, 100k more than what is being offered. I don't know if he's going to get shares in the go-kart arena when that gets up and running. But I think I can't see him signing that contract. I feel like he would play the waiting game. And my predictions have been that I think he goes next year on a free. Because there's some theories coming out now that he goes to Bayern and then eventually moves to another club, like a bit like a middle sort of ground. And I can't see him personally doing that. I think Kane's got too much respect for the fan base and the club to really do that. Like, We see what happened in 2021 when he was close to the City move and he bounced back and he's still had respect. It's sort of like his entourage around him, like his brother, who seemed to be pulling the strings with all these deals. But yeah, as I say, Ange has got this power. I just would love to see a Tottenham side, like we go out and sign James Maddison, sort of against the run of play, a 10 we've been screaming out for since Christian Eriksen. And that's the perfect player to Fred Kane through. He doesn't have to drop deep now. And the thought of like Kulusevski and Son and Kane and Maddison in one team is just delightful. And then taking Kane away from that, it would just shatter me to pieces.
I think it all would, all of us, to be fair. And I think the thing is, Josh, is the sense that obviously Harry's got a lot of property in his name. So it's not as if he's going for money. It will literally be he's going because he wants to win a trophy. But hopefully with Ange's wise words, he convinces him to stay, because at the end of the day, he's got real no rush apart from he's getting on a bit. But he's still going to perform in any team he goes in, realistically.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But, and there is a big but, I think the way we think as fans is completely different to how footballers actually think. And if I was to take off my Tottenham hat and I was going to put on an imaginary footballer's hat, right? Bayern Munich's probably a top 5 club in the world in terms of their consistency, competing at the top end of the biggest competitions in football. They win the league pretty much every year. They are far more often than not in the semi-finals most seasons of the Champions League. They've won the Champions League twice in the last 10 years or so, 10, 11 years. And maybe from his perspective, if he goes into that team, he believes that there are good enough players around him that he could be that missing piece to get them a Champions League. And he might see that as, because, you know, everyone thinks about Man City, and rightly so. But I look at PSG, who are potentially going to be weaker next season, so they're going to probably be out of the conversation. It's going to be probably Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Man City, and perhaps one more club, of which there's probably 3 or 4 contenders. But those are the 3 that I can think of that I would say, you know, almost certainly, bar drawing each other in for earlier in the competition, they'll be in the semi-finals. So maybe he thinks he can be the difference maker, because he's not going to start for Real Madrid. He's not going to start for Manchester City either. So if you're looking at Europe's biggest clubs and where there's an opportunity to be the starting striker, and it seems very likely that, you know, well, based on everything we're seeing, Man United's not going to shell out the type of money, and there will be a premium on the Harry Kane price because it's a Premier League rival and a top 4 rival. That is the biggest club he could possibly go to, I think, at this moment in time. So I still think he'll stay, but I think that's probably because Bayern Munich, I can imagine them going in for one more offer, and they've had a bit of a pattern. So they went in at about 70 million euros, then 80 million. I think they'll probably go 90 million plus maybe, I don't know, 10 in add-ons, which will equate to around 100 million euros, or we could call that 85.6 million pounds. The Gareth Bale fee. And I think that will be as far as they are prepared to stretch. And if Tottenham say no, and obviously a lot of the talk has been 120 million pounds, which obviously I don't see that happening. I think 100 million pounds, maybe Daniel Levy has a rethink. But I think from a Kane perspective, I do believe that there is, even if Ange can try and say, you know, all this stuff, you know, he might have it set in his head that that's the best move for him. And maybe it is his brother and his dad. You know, we know his dad's a Gooner. We know his brother, I think, is a Gooner as well. And he was, I think, hard work, his brother, during the whole Man City saga. So, you know, I think it's also fair to say that Kane doesn't have the appropriate level of staff and guidance around him for a player of that quality. No other player of that, you know, stature has his brother as his agent. So yeah, I think it's still, you know, as we all probably feel, there is a chance, and it really is up in the air. It's just whether Bayern are prepared to pay the money, because I think if they are, I genuinely do believe Kane is off.
We all don't want that to be the case, but I guess they can't really argue with that statement. I mean, the only thing I'm holding out for, if it is the case, hopefully he just stays on, Connor. I mean, is there potential he could move in the January transfer window? Could that mix things up?
No, I don't think he moves in Jan. I think it's this summer or this summer or the next summer. I don't think it is this summer now. Personally, again, we're all saying all of this, and it makes perfect sense. And Josh makes a great point, and Lee as well in the comments about only Harry knows what he's thinking. We're all speculating. We're all again. I fluctuate. 1 minute I'm like he's staying, next minute I'm like he's going, and he's staying again. It's that sort of bias of you want him to stay. But another thing is his family. He's such a family-orientated guy. Is he because obviously Kate's pregnant? Does he really want to up and move to Germany realistically with his? Because he is such a family close guy, and it's a big ask for him moving all his kids there and to restart life there. And again, the main reason, of course, is the trophies. But yeah, no, it's this summer or the next summer. I think it possibly is next summer, but I'm holding out for Ange to spread us with some Aussie magic. So hopefully he stays here forever.
Hopefully. That would be lovely. I would love that. I think we'd all love that. But again, it's whether he wants to win those trophies. And sadly, although Josh has said we're going to set the sights high next season, I don't know if we're going to come away with a trophy. I mean, we might do it domestically, but I'm not too sure. But Sonny, I'm going to come to you because obviously we've talked about Ange and the fact that he wants every player to have basically a clean slate, so to speak, in his Aussie lingo. And one of those players is obviously Ndombele. Now, he started off his speech to him saying he's putting a lot of hard work in. To you, does that mean he's actually applying himself this time? Or do you think it's just covering smokes and mirrors at the moment?
I just don't know what to think of him anymore. I just rate him so highly as a player. Like, he has got such a good skill set. Like, he's just amazing at dribbling. And we saw it in cameos when he first signed, and it was a lot of money to pay. But it's an attitude thing. I think he said, like, he's 26 now, 27-ish. Surely by this age, like, he's got to have his attitude straight. And people keep saying, like, he was in a Napoli side that won the title. He didn't really feature at all. And when he did, I think there was one game where someone showed like a highlight, and I think that was one game they lost. And I'm like, is this what we're really like gauging our assessment on? And even like just little clips of him. I've seen 2 clips of him, one walking from his car to the training ground, and even one to get his medal. He's the most sluggish bloke I've ever seen. On and off the ball, and there is potential for him to fit into Ange's system where it's I feel like the 6 role would be perfect for him, but then there's a lot of competition with Basuma and Skip, because a lot of players seem to be able to play the 6 role more than the 8 role, because that you need to be a bit more dynamic for that. But the problem is, and we know this with Levy, he doesn't like to show face. He doesn't want to lose out on money, but we know we're not going to get near enough the 72 million or whatever it was back. You're lucky if you probably get 20 to 30. I mean, I think that's what Napoli did offer. They offered 20 million euros or something along those lines. So I feel like he deserves one more chance. And like, this is like final straw, because I feel like he is more suited. Whereas a player like Lo Celso, I feel like it's gone for him, really, like out the door practically already.
No, definitely. And I think it's that kind of temperament that we talk about in terms of he's got so much ability, that man. He just, I don't know what it is. I don't know what he needs to do, Josh, to kind of get him to get his bum into gear. Is it going to be Ange's lingo to pursue? Because like we said, obviously it's a massive price tag, and it's going to be a lot of wages, and a lot of wages for someone to slump around the training ground. Ange's not going to have it, is he?
No, not at all. But I think the comments from Ange were really telling. He said he was really pleased with how Ndombele has been training. He's been training really hard. And I think we've probably all seen that training clip. There's a sort of transitional drill, and he's sprinting. And it's the first time I've ever seen him sprint. Yeah, I get the whole thing about him being sluggish, but some people just are like that. I mean, you walk down the high street, how many people do you see that are a bit like that? So, yeah, I completely agree with the comment that Lee said as well. He's got all the ability in the world, but his attitude is nowhere near world class. I think that's probably true. And I think what the challenge is for Ange is to make him motivated, to make him hungry. How can we make Tanguy, feel like he's got something to prove? And I think that's a problem that he's had throughout his career, even in the Lyon days when he was so impressive. It's not been the easiest ride to the top for Tanguy, and I feel like he needs to feel like something's on the line here. But all we can hope for is that he just works hard and that they get on, and see what happens. I think personally, I don't see him actually as a 6. I think the 8 is the only role he can do, because I think when I think of the 6, I mean, it depends what system you play, but in my mind, a 6 has got to be probably the fittest player on the pitch. When I look at like Rodri, or I look at Lavia, what he was doing at Southampton and is going to do at probably one of the Premier League giants next season. You need someone who's anti-press. You need someone who is so good in the transition, can provide an additional option going forward, but also support the back line. And Tanguy's not that player. For me, he's threading through balls in, or he's playing little balls into James Maddison in bits of space or pockets of space. He's ghosting into the box a bit like Dele Alli used to. And I think all of these things are possible, because what we're going to hopefully have is, and I don't think we're going to see it immediately, but I think probably come November, December, if all goes to plan and injuries depending, we'll have a bit of kind of, sort of telepathy amongst the squad, where the movements off the ball. That was the thing that impressed me so much when Arsenal came to the Lane earlier in the season and we lost, was the movement off the ball, how they could do a little back heel here, a no-look pass there. Everyone knew where everyone was moving. And in that kind of system, with Tanguy's kind of technical ability, I mean, you struggle to find many players who can do what he can do on the ball. I just think back to that Newcastle away. I think it was the 3-2 game, the season we got top 4 under Conte, and he was just unbelievable. And if you can get that kind of Tanguy, it's a new £60 million signing. But yeah, I think Ange's comments were telling though.
No, definitely. It was more like, I'm praising him, but it's up to him what he wants to do, if he wants to apply. But I think that's kind of good, because it's not saying, no, I'm dismissing you completely. It's almost like it's been put on him that he needs to prove himself. Like kind of like you said, Josh, in terms of he's got to prove a point and he needs to go and do it. But I think it is true, Connor. I think it will it'll give us something different, because we spoke about last season how we didn't have any creativity whatsoever. And obviously we brought in Maddison, but maybe having Tanguy as well firing on all cylinders, if we can get into that, will be wonders for us.
Oh, it'll be a miracle. We thought his career was gone at Spurs. I remember, I think was it the FA Cup game where he walked off the pitch? The whole ground was, again, I'm not a fan of booing players, but they were booing him when he was subbed, and it was crazy. And you thought, wow, that's it. He's done, But yeah, again, he has all the ability in the world. And if we can get that out of him, it will be that genuine miracle of, oh my God, someone has fixed Tanguy and Ndombele, because it's painful to watch someone that good just not reach their potential, and like Josh and Sonny, not Sonny, like Josh and Sonny has said, it's with Ange being that dad figure, praising him in the press, that actually could genuinely be what he needs, because Mourinho was slating him all the time, and we know how well that goes. So I think there is every possibility that Ange can get it out of him, but I think, again, he is the only person who can do that. He's the only one who can really believe in himself and show it. And Spurs fans want to get behind him. If he can really start to show himself, then, yeah, honestly, I really hope it works for him. It's just, yeah, we'll just have to see.
Like Sonny said, it's the amount of straws we're clutching at. They're disappearing by the day. So hopefully he can obviously bring it back. But obviously we've spoken about unlocking the midfield, but it's that centre-back position, Sonny, that we kind of need to fix. And obviously with Romero coming out today in Ange's press conference that he's injured, it just shows that we need to get not one centre-back in, 2 centre-back-ins, because I can't be dealing with just Dyer at the back.
That's the thing. I think we now look at that squad as a whole, including the deadwood we need to get through, and our front line looks promising. Obviously, we're going to talk about Solomon, I'm sure, in a bit. Our midfield now looks quite impressive. I think there's some good positions there. But then you look at the defence and you're like, how have we gone from Toby Alderweireld, Jan Vertonghen, Danny Rose, Kyle Walker to this, where it's just like a mishmash of players that can't play in a back four? And the centre-back situation, I think, is very worrying, because I'm really not a big fan of Davinson Sanchez. I've been one of his biggest critics for years, ever since that City game where he face planted the floor. It's really worrying. I just feel like when Romero is your most senior, I say senior as in like he's the best technically, because I feel like Dyer's run his course at the club. But the problem with Romero is he's rash and quite aggressive, which I'm hoping a coach like Ange can train it in like make him use it in sensible ways. Like it's good to come out, but know when to do it, not just all the time. So that's the thing. Where the signings we're looking at, I feel like we're talking about one or the other, Tapsoba or Mickey van der Ven. Get both, or maybe they might go down the route of trying to secure a cheaper deal for Longley. But Longley's one of those players. I say to a lot of my mates, it's an okay signing. Like it's not gonna set the world alight, and he'll do a job, but you've also got Ben Davis, who could maybe play left centre back to put a shift in. I know you're shaking your head there, Josh, but I feel like we just need to go and really sign Tapsoba and Mickey van der Ven. We're coming to this stage now where last summer we could have solved this issue, and it's becoming summer after summer that these issues keep getting pushed back. Like we've waited so many years for an attacking midfielder. It's finally happened. But how long are we going to wait for a left centre back? Hopefully this gets solved sooner rather than later.
No, it has to be. And it's the fact that we're this far into the transfer window, and the one kind of position, Josh, that we need to fix. Obviously, we've spoken about creative midfielder, but it's the centre backs last season that were driving us all insane. And we still haven't managed to get either of them over the line yet.
No, absolutely. I do think we're going to see a lot happen this week and next week. And, I'll just answer the Davis thing first because, I was shaking my head. Look, Longley is not a first choice centre back, right? The reason he's being brought in, and I do believe it will happen, is to be fourth choice centre back, is to be better than Tanganga, Dyer, Davis. He's being brought in so that if you have an injury to say Tapsoba, who is the number one target, and a Romero, you've got a much higher caliber of player. This is a player that had more sponsorship deals than almost any other player when he was at Barcelona, was only didn't go to the Qatar World Cup after a conversation with Deschamps, because Deschamps wanted to bring him in as a reserve player, basically. They just agreed it wasn't right, probably on both sides. This is a player that was essentially PSG's backup to Hernandez if Hernandez didn't go through, and is a player that has current interest from Juventus and Atletico Madrid, amongst other clubs. If he was that bad a player, why are big clubs that have far more glory and far more success than us after him? And why has he had the career that he's had so far? I think, yes, he's not quick, but at 6 million euros, potentially even a free transfer, if he is able to break out of his Barcelona contract, it's a no-brainer for a backup. But I think with Tapsoba and Van der Ven, I completely agree. We've got to get both in my opinion. And, there are other options. I think there's probably about 5 on that list. I know that Buongiorno, the Torino captain's another one, and Tosin Adarabioyo as well, who have been kind of considered. But there's a couple of things, and it does come down to money. Whether we like it or not, we know what Daniel Levy's like. But unless Spurs get rid of some players, there's not going to be a situation where we spend the type of money that is being asked for Tapsoba and for Van der Ven. Now, I don't believe for 1 second the reports claiming that Wolfsburg want 40 million for Van der Ven. I think we can probably do a deal. And those that are actually, genuinely notable journalists are talking about 30 million being doable. But that's a lot of money to spend on a player if you don't have that money in the first place, because we know that Spurs are working on a bit of a shoestring budget this summer, where we're having to be very crafty and nimble in terms of the deals that we're doing, getting players out. And that's exactly why we went for Vicario, and the same thing with Solomon on free, taking opportunities. But from what I'm also hearing, Tapsoba, Leverkusen seem pretty insistent on, the 40, 50 million price tag. And yes, if he's your number one defender, we should probably go out and pay that. I do agree. But given the situation we find ourselves in, whether we like it or not, that is the situation. It's only possible with an outgoing. All I hope for is that maybe we can offer Davinson Sanchez to Leverkusen to get the deal done and hopefully get both in. But a boy can dream, eh? But yeah, no, 100%. We've got to get 2 in. I do think Longley is kind of one that we can just count as that's going to happen. I think irrespective. So who knows? We might even bring in 3.
Oh my days, it would really be Christmas if we brought in 3. But I think for me, obviously, Sober and Mickey DeVen, I think they are, like you said, Josh, the top targets. And for me, Connor, I just love that Mickey DeVen is like roadrunner, and we need that speed at the back. So I'll be all ear for it if he does manage to come in.
Oh, we need someone like that. Listen, every time we've had this conversation for so long, and we go into the next season with the same centre backs: Eric Dyer, Davinson Sanchez, Ben Davis potentially playing. I can't deal with this, and I totally understand what Josh says about Longley, and I do sort of side of it. Yes, if it's a cheap deal, but you know, we're hoarding these players who theoretically, in my eyes, aren't good enough. Like Longley was there last season. I know he's surrounded by players that are not good enough, but it's still, there was nothing I saw personally that says to me, this is a guy we should bring in as, because let's face it, right? We do deserve 2 good centre-backs. We do. It's been so long. And I know all that money was spent on Dav and it never worked out. And you can understand Levy and Enix's sort of reluctancy to spend that sort of money on a centre-back again. But listen, you know, we have been crying for so long for a Jan and Toby partnership. Like it's painful. Our strongest team, we were so good defensively, and we need to build on that. So no, if we finish this summer with one of them, I'll be content. But you know, listen, if we're treating a new centre back as Longley, I'm not happy, because we are just churning the same stuff. And I get it if it's a cheap deal, but you know, we got a new manager, a new project. Why are we still trying to do this cheap deal in positions we really need? Solomon's fantastic business because it's a free and it fills in that more a Danjuma role. I'm talking early here, but in general, do you know what I mean? I think it's not on if we only get one of them, because, and also we're stalling. We've got all these players we want to get rid of. You know, Lo Celso potentially, Reguilon maybe, all these players, Rodon, again, everyone forgets about Joe Rodon. You know, it's all these players that we could get rid of, that we could get funds for. Why are we not just pushing for them now and getting them like we have with the other ones? Centre-back should have been the number 1 priority, personally. Madison's fantastic signing, but no, it's painful every single season with these centre-backs. I can't deal with it anymore. So if next season it's that same defence, I think just every home game I'll cry. I'll be known as the crier. People, there's the crier this week. Honestly, I can't deal with it.
That's the thing. We've gone for, with Ange's football, it's going to be potentially, well, it will be more attacking, but I can't be dealing with that same centre-back duo. And obviously Romero is great, and like you've already touched on the fact that he just needs to sort out how rash he is, but we've got to have both of these guys come in. I can't be taking it otherwise.
What annoys me most about Tottenham is, and I feel like this has been the case for, would I say 4 seasons? It's just errors leading to goal. And it usually comes from a Dyer or a Sanchez maybe playing it out, or a short ball headed back. You need someone back there. Like, see, I was always pushing for a Laporte, which I know is like a very high ceiling, but you sort of need that mature centre-back to come in and then sort of teach a Romero, like, you know, like you had with, I know this is very, you know, dreamland, but you had Van Dijk, and then you had someone next to him like a Joe Gomez when Liverpool won the title. You got your mature one, and he's teaching the young one. This is how we do. This is how we move the line. Sort of like your captain, if they're not wearing the armband. And I feel like we lack that because there's no real leaders in that defence, and especially when we had like the 3 at the back, and it was a bit like a circus most of the time, especially last season defensively. And even our fullbacks, I feel like there's some question marks there. A lot of them are wing backs. There's questions now about, will Pedro Porro be a winger? Destiny Udogie was one of the best fullbacks in Serie A last season. Does he really fit the system? Does Emerson Royale play as a right centre back? Like, there's lots of more questions than answers when it comes to our defensive issues. And you just hope that Ange sort of, you know, converting from a back 3 to a back 4 is not going to happen overnight, especially when you've had a season and a half of playing that way, especially like we saw with Ryan Mason. It was under Stellini, went to that back 4 against Newcastle, and we all know how that went. And then Ryan Mason was then having to sort of play this back 3 to sort of get to the end of the season to sort of see if, like, you know, just get over the line. And it's going to be a big process, and we need some good signings to really tick those boxes. And that's why I am more edging towards Mickey van der Ven, because he can play left back as well. And Ange likes a versatile player. So maybe there's a chance. I can just imagine some players playing in some wild positions this season.
I think the thing is, again, it goes back to the fact that we've had so many managers in such a short period of time. And I'm not saying that all these players deserve a free pass of why they've been so bad, but I can understand that could probably mess with your brain a little bit when you're asked to play so many different positions under so many different managers. But obviously, hopefully the centre-back situation sorts itself out in the next week and a half, because I'm telling you now, I am not going to be able to last the start of the season if we don't bring either one of those in. Like you said, Mickey van der Ven's, is that more... I think he's that more quick... Well, he is quick, and I think he's probably, I wouldn't say he's the better player, but I wouldn't fancy him if he did come in. I'd take him. But obviously, Josh, I want to talk about Solomon, because obviously I'd like to say it's nearly done. I don't know how done it is, but it seems like it could be a good one for us in terms of just how the deal's kind of working.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be done tomorrow. It's going to be announced. And I think we'll all be pretty happy with it, to be honest, because, you know, this is a player that showed in glimpses exactly what he will add to the team. He is good on both feet. He scored some very important goals for Fulham. And at one point, there was talk of Fulham having a charge for a European spot. And he was a big part of that from a sort of attacking point of view. You know, him and Mitrovic really did provide for a few months at least. And on a free, this is a guy that's, 24, going to be 24 years old for us. You know, he's got 5, 6 years, 7 years. You know, he's not anywhere near his best. He's a player that I think can play probably on both wings if asked, and has a real raw pace about him. He's good with both feet, and this is exactly the type of player that I think we need as a backup, because there's going to be moments where, what if Harry Kane gets injured? So Son plays up top, and then we need someone to fill in at left mid, or Richarlison, who's been injured, more than he's not been. If he's out and he can't play on the left, so for me, especially in a season where we don't have European football, I'm looking at, when we play Wickham or Morecambe or whoever it is in the cup, we're going to have a pretty strong lineup, even by playing our second string team. And we're not going to be in a situation where we're going to Sheffield United, or another championship club at the time, playing a second string team and saying this team is just not good enough to get a result. There'll be no excuses now, because without the European football, we will have, hopefully, by the end of this window, the squad depth to go, okay, well, we're going to play Bentancur and we're going to play, Longley, and we're going to play all these players, Solomon, and actually give the players that we need to give a rest. Because how many times last season do we have players playing in the red zone? And when I say the red zone, it's when they have an injury and there is a very, very high risk period after the injury of re-aggravation. And a great example of that was Richarlison in the North London derby. Came on after 70 minutes. He wasn't meant to be back in the squad for a good 3, probably even 4 weeks after that injury. And he was back way too soon. And the way that the medical staff dealt with the Bentancur injury, making him walk off the pitch, and Harry Kane is believed to have said that he heard the ping when it went. This type of stuff, if it's going to happen, you need players to replace them of good quality. So absolutely great signing for me. And I think that he's one that can only get better. And let's not forget Son's age as well. So I'm hopeful, and this is not to say that Solomon's the be-all and end-all, but I'm hopeful that a player that can learn with these types of top players around him in this environment, maybe he can develop and be that natural successor to Son. If he, once his time is run, but at least as a backup, it's great.
Yes, definitely, and especially for the feet as well, Connor. Obviously, there was talk. Obviously, we were playing I can never say it. The disconnect. No, I'm butchered it. Playing them soon, so I would think that was probably the compensation fee, so to speak. But saying that.
Sorry,
thank you. Cheers. That's the one. So you couldn't even understand what I was trying to say. But with that, obviously, it is great because we've seen Lucas go, and obviously many people, there's a big argument whether Lucas was good, not good, or it was just that Amsterdam night. But that being said, it's great to have someone like Solomon because he's so young and he's so impressionable. He can bring more to the table.
Absolutely, yeah, he's hungry. I mean, you know, he was only at Fulham last season, and yeah, he had to come off the bench a lot. And when he come off the bench, you know, he scored virtually 2 identical goals after each other. The one against Wolves, one against Leeds. He looked lively when he was coming off the bench. I think it was 4 or 5 goals he'd scored off the bench. So, and he's going to be that sort of player. He's not going to be starting against ahead of Son or Kulusevski. But we need that depth. We need someone to bring on to change a game, and I think that is better than what Lucas, and unfortunately Dan Juma just wasn't given the chance, so I don't want to slander him with saying that, but I think I like it. Again, it's free. We might pay some form of compensation. There's obviously a reason why we're playing that game against Shakhtar. It's very lovely, but there must be some sort of reason there, surely, for that. I'm not going to go into conspiracy theories on it, but I think the fact that it is a free tells me straight away that we have even more impetus to go and get those centre backs. We're saving money there. Come on. Like, do you know what I mean? It's, if we're not going to push on and get Harvey Barnes, like we said before the show, because of the fee, and we've got Solomon to fill that role, then we've saved so much money there. So to use it on the centre backs, sell some of the dead wood, and yeah, invest it. No, I'm a big fan. I've been slated a bit for saying I'm a big fan of the transfer, but again, he's a bench player for the time being. If he shows himself to be hungry, and Ange will definitely sort of take an impression on that, then he could well be starting games. And Sonny should have been dropped a lot more last season. We can all agree on that. But if Solomon can show that when maybe Son or Kulusevski aren't playing well, that he could step in, it's even better. No, I'm a big fan of it. And being a free transfer, it makes it even better.
Especially, we've always said that competition for place is definitely something that we need to have at Spurs. And even looking at our bench sometimes, Sonny, that the fact that we don't have these players to come on. Now with Solomon, we've potentially got that.
I feel like last year's bench was quite underwhelming. We didn't have anyone to look and call to, you know, obviously when it comes to attackers beyond that, like obviously Dan Juma saga was a bit of a joke now when we look at it. Lucas Moura, every time he came on, he was a bit of a calamity towards the end, which actually was a bit of a shame. And then apart from that, like when you look at the attackers, we've also got around the club, maybe like your Troy Parrott or your Dane Scarlett. I feel like Troy Parrott's time's probably coming to an end, maybe another loan spell, and Dane Scarlett, still quite young, didn't really work out for Portsmouth. They had a few managers last year as well, so a bit of a weird period for him. But no, I feel like there's really not a negative to it. Like I spoke to my friend who's a Fulham fan, and he did come in with like all these like, oh, but he didn't play that much, and I'm like, no, like there's what in the cameos he showed, because he had 19 appearances, 15 of those were from the bench. Like what how can you really judge that performance? And he was good in the FA Cup, and maybe that's what we need. We need a performer in the FA Cup to get us close to a trophy. And as we say, yeah, the Harvey Barnes fee now looks a bit like it could creep up even more. So I feel like it's a sensible option. And Daniel Levy's clever. He's got an Australian manager, he's got a South Korean superstar, and he's got an Israeli superstar. So he's really picking out the global market as well.
He is, man. There's no like extension to his talent, is there really, when it comes to business, it's so to speak. Obviously, I want to touch on it a little bit just because for me it's probably a hot topic, and that is ticket prices, and that we've seen them go up again. And now, without getting too deep, for me, I probably will not be able to afford to go to a game till after Christmas. So, Josh, do you think that it's warranted with these ticket prices, or do you just sadly think that's how things are going in this market now?
Look, there's two things. One, obviously 17 clubs have done the same. But if anyone's short of cash, it's not the football clubs. If we're even having a conversation about bringing a player in for £50 million, I've said it, right? Bonkers. People are struggling really badly at the minute. I mean, just to put, a personal touch on it, my rent is extortionate. Probably half of my earnings go to tax and rent. And even more so, I'm probably only left with about 20% of anything I earn from work after tax and just trying to survive. And if you just try and live a normal life, makes it very, very difficult. So I have no sympathy for the football clubs whatsoever. It makes me incredibly angry, especially at a time where, to be honest, the optics for Spurs are even worse. We already pay, top dollar to watch what for the last couple of years has been, well, I mean, obviously it was a good season under Conte, but certainly the last year was a pile of absolute, rubbish. Just because Ange is here, just because there's a feel-good factor perhaps around the club, does not mean that Daniel Levy can go back to Daniel Levy doing all those things that he got away with for so many years. And for me, if he's going to continue to do that, I'm certainly not going to stand for it. I can't just sit there and accept it and not say anything. So yeah, optics are absolutely terrible. No fan. What this does is this pushes away genuine fans as well. We talk about the atmosphere at the stadium, which is absolutely dreadful, probably the worst in the league, in my opinion, at our stadium. And I don't think I'm being harsh on Tottenham by saying that. We have got considerably the worst home atmosphere. Fans are being priced, proper fans, the ones that used to go to the old ground, the ones that go home and away, they're the ones being priced out of it. And it's the ones that come for a one-off and are happy to spend 400 quid in the club shop. And the ones that are going to give Daniel Levy, what he wants, they're the ones that benefit. So I think it's pretty disgraceful, actually, Hollie, if you're not able to go to a game until Christmas or beyond. No proper fan should be in that position. So I strongly hope that our fan base comes together and pushes the club to change their minds.
And it's like you said, it's like we got Madison through the door. We were looking up with Ange, and then Connor, all of a sudden they slam you with ticket prices. It's like, come on.
I am so fuming. Like I'm actually embarrassed almost as well. Like, because it was so sly. Because obviously, as a season ticket holder, I was fortunate that they didn't up the prices. But a couple of weeks later, oh, by the way, yeah, match day tickets going up for everyone. Like, what are you doing? Like, there is no justifiable reason for that. They can't use COVID anymore. They can't use anything else. And yes, the cost of living crisis is affecting everyone. So why are you increasing the prices? What's changed this summer? What? Because we've gone and spent that money on Madison, we now all of a sudden are willing to pay more for tickets. No, it's pricing every single person out of football. And I don't like this argument of, we're becoming a touristy club. It's have a lot. For me, if fans go. They're paying the money, they want to be there. That's fine. But this is pricing out, people that want to take kids to their first game. It's pricing out people that don't live close like yourself that want to make a game. It's pricing out people that that just in general want to actually go and watch their club. And it's worse and worse. And it's really just killing the game, and it's taking the life out of it, because no one's going to want to go anymore. No, what's the point when you're paying that much? What is the point? And the football might be better next season, but that's not going to justify the prices that we're paying. It's laughable. It's embarrassing. And I know they've got this new advisory board, and hopefully they do some people are arguing that they've done this, and then they've got the advisory board, and they're going to go in, and then they're going to get the prices reversed, and they're going to see it as a massive win for the advisory board. No, there's in no ever circumstances with this acceptable at all. The fans have suffered so much with how the club's going. Everyone is suffering with this cost of living crisis. Never in a million years was this acceptable, and something's got to be done about it, because in my eyes, is a step too far in terms of how far everything's been. I'm embarrassed, really embarrassed.
Can I just throw in as well? It's not as if Daniel Levy can make the argument that it's about the money that the club is losing or the money he's losing, because who's the only chairman that gave himself a fat pay rise at the end of last season, the worst season that we'd had in, since the Juan de Ramos days, right? Pretty much, in terms of everything going on. Daniel Levy gave himself, what was it? He gave himself 10% pay rise. Him and the board all got fat pay rises, whilst everyone else has real pay cuts in terms of the cost of living crisis and the way that the economy's gone. So I think the cheek to do that from given what he's doing on a personal level is absolutely despicable. And I really hope that the fans don't see this is not Levy in, Levy out stuff, by the way. This is, about right and wrong, in my opinion.
It's just not acceptable. Yeah.
Super positive about the football team, but at the same time, hold this man accountable, because too few are staying silent, in my view.
And sorry to butt in one more time. On top of that as well, you've got all these events that happen. It's not like all of a sudden we've gone, we've got no events in this summer, so we've got to recoup the money somewhere. We've got no concerts or no go-karting or no skywalking. We've got all of that. We've got all these different forms of revenue.
That's what I was going to say as well. The revenue streams at this club is like we're taking over in the sense of like Manchester United, like how Ed Woodward could like get these deals in. Like we still got the naming rights to technically still sell on the stadium. Like I just feel like with Levy, it's just, the way even during COVID, he put everyone on leave or whatever it was. Furlough, that's it. And I feel like it just doesn't surprise us anymore what he can really do. And I feel like the revenue, I went and did the Skywalk recently. There's literally parties going up every 10 minutes, up and down, tours going round. The money is flowing into that club. I know, I don't doubt it for 1 second. Concerts as well, as you mentioned, and NFL, and it just really, I'm worried that it is pricing fans out, because the last 2 games I went to, because I'm not a season ticket holder, I have friends who sell me their tickets if their dad or someone can't go, and the last 2 times I've been, it has been the most toxic atmosphere I've ever experienced. There's infighting in the stadium, not literally, but like debating and people arguing about throwing tifos and whatnot, and it is really becoming a sad experience. And football is one of those things where you could go to a show or you could go and watch something and you leave and you're happy because you've had a really good experience, but because football, you leave and you could be angry, you could be sad. You're like, why have I just spent 100 quid on this? And when it goes up and up, it's just, what's the point? You might as well just go and support your local team, because at least the money's probably going somewhere better.
And that's the thing. I think for me, it's just, I went to a few games last season because a friend of ours on the podcast, Wes, again, it's the same kind of situation with you, Sonny. If he's got a ticket, I'll pay to go, sort of thing. And it's just like you said, I think I went to the last game of the season. I met up with Connor, and it was like the toxicity that was there. I mean, I didn't stay to watch the players walk around, but Connor was there, and literally they drowned out music over the top of it because we were so unhappy. And it's just like, how can you win? But hopefully something's done. I'm not going to hold my breath because, as we all know, Levy just seems to do what he wants when he wants. But hopefully going forward, at least we can kind of enjoy the football, whether that's at the ground or at home this season. But we've got a lot of things to look forward to. Hopefully, if we definitely get those centre-backs in, that would make life a lot happier. I don't want to leave it on a sad note. But yeah, hopefully we've got a lot of work to do, but hopefully things get moving in the next week or so. We've got something to talk about. But I want to say a big thank you to you guys that have joined me tonight. It's been a great show. I mean, it started really nice and then I ended it on a downer, but there we go. That's Spurs for you. We'll go around the table and we'll say our goodbyes. So Connor, thank you again so much for joining on tonight. Where can everybody find you?
Thanks as always. Love coming on. You can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok. I went semi-viral for a song I did about James Maddison. So if you like silly chants, silly songs, then you can find me doing that and genuinely just getting passionate about this silly club that we all love. I'm CT's for Club, yeah, that's my name. I know you're close to 3K, am I right?
Well, a little bit off, but that's the next goal, man.
Well, keep pushing. Everyone keep pushing that. Click that subscribe button. Do it. Let's go. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
No, cheers, Connor. I appreciate it. And also, Josh, thank you again for the first time on Hollie's Hotspurs tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. Bar me, you ruined it at the end. But where can everybody find you?
Yeah, just there we go. Just below there, Josh Hughes TV on most socials. And yeah, it's been a real joy to come on tonight, irrespective of the ticket prices. As you say, it is Tottenham, but we have got a lot to be positive about. And I would just say this channel is the place to get all the reactions. So do subscribe. Let's get Hollie to 3K as soon as possible.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Josh. And Sonny, aka Sonny, thank you again for joining us tonight. Where can everybody find you as well?
Yeah, I think I've made an okay debut for a Tottenham sort of player or Tottenham name. But yeah, Sonny Talks Spurs on YouTube, new channel as well. So I'm enjoying that grind as well. And then Sonny Snelling on all my other socials. Or you can see me on TalkSport talking to Gabby Abonlahor, usually.
Love it. I used to get called that at school because of my surname, so I'll rate that. But thank you as well to everybody that's been in the chat tonight as well. If you're rewatching this, if you watched it live, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Hollie's Hotspurs Live will be back next week. Well, hopefully we've actually got 2 centre backs over the line because that would be beautiful. But until next time, come on you Spurs.